Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Rita and I do book and movie reviews in the hopes of introducing you to your next favorite. And for this video, I will be introducing you to a book that I have read recently that's called Eligible, and this is part of a series of rewrites, modern rewrites of Austen's novels. So I'll be taking a few minutes to talk to you about this book, no spoilers, I promise, and to help you find out whether this could be your next book to read. So in Eligible, we have Elizabeth's character, who is Liz in this case. So she works in a magazine called Mascara, and her sister Jane works as a yoga instructor. Both of them come from Cincinnati, but they have moved to New York together. And Liz, at the start of the narrative, is 38 and Jane is 39. And one of the really interesting things about this book is that Jane is someone who really wants to get pregnant, but because she is still single, hasn't been able to do that with a partner. And so she is trying artificial insemination. And this is one of the pieces of information with which the story opens. And the reasons for the title of the book are just my absolute favorite things about this whole story. So Eligible refers to a TV show that Bingley goes to. So it's this version of The Bachelor, and our Bingley character, Chad Bingley, is relatively famous because he has gone on this show and famously didn't pick anyone at the end of the show. And so he is still single, and at the beginning of our narrative, he is coming over to Cincinnati where he is introduced to the Bennet sisters, and you know what happens.
Mr. Bingley arrived from the north 5,000 years. He's single. Who's single? Mr. Bingley, apparently.
The question of class privilege that is so important for Austen is still very much here, and it applies both to Bingley and Darcy, but also to the Bennet sisters. So we find out that the Bennet sisters have actually lived a life of considerable luxury that they would have never been able to have were it not for their family's money. So Elizabeth would never have been able to move to New York, and Jane certainly wouldn't have been able to. So they depend very much on their family's money. And then the younger sisters, Mary, Lydia, and Kitty, are also living with their parents and have never really had a job their entire lives. And so we have the question of privilege here very well translated from Austen's time into a modern context. And one of my absolute favorite things about this book is that Lydia and Kitty are CrossFit maniacs, and I just thought that that was an absolutely hilarious new portrayal of them. And as you would expect when you transfer a story that is very much based into a very particular cultural and political background, it's inevitable that you would lose some things when you transfer it into the present moment. And I would say that this is the case with the Bennets, particularly with the parents and the question of class privilege. So when we think about Pride and Prejudice, we do feel sorry for the Bennet family because they are on the verge of losing their property to Mr. Collins through no fault of their own. So the property has always been entailed, and much as Mrs. Bennet hates this fact and absolutely refuses to accept it, this is a reality, this is going to happen, they are going to lose this house, and it doesn't matter what they do. And yes, Austen does emphasize the fact that Mrs. Bennet is not a good manager. She has not managed the money well. She has spent far too much money on herself, on Lydia, for example. And there is the indication that had they managed to save some money, they could at least have provided their daughters with a much more comfortable style of life than they would otherwise have. And so this is one of the things that we lose, this sense of pity for the Bennets because of their current situation, when we transfer it to a modern scenario. So we find out at the beginning of the novel that the Bennets are in financial difficulties. So their house has been mortgaged twice. And we find out, and get this is one of my favorite things about the book, Mrs. Bennet is actually addicted to shopping. And so I think that is a very nice link to the original novel. So Mrs. Bennet is described flipping through catalogues very avidly on a daily basis, and so loses a lot of money through that. And because of this financial abyss through which they throw themselves is very much presented as being their own fault, to a much larger extent, I would argue, than in the original Pride and Prejudice. So at the opening of the book, what moves the plot forward is that the Bennets are at risk of losing this property. And so Elizabeth, the Elizabeth character, Liz, is called on to help. And I will leave it at that because I want you to find out all the wonderful things about this book for yourselves. All I can say is that it's absolutely hilarious. It has so many moments that made me laugh out loud. I absolutely devoured this book. So it's almost 500, no, it is 500 pages long, and it was recommended to me recently, and the moment I picked it up, I think I finished it in 2 days. I was just completely hooked. And so I would definitely recommend it, obviously, to any Austen fans out there, but really to anyone who is just looking for the book version of a romantic comedy. Anyone who just wants to pick up a nice, fun romance book. And I would say that, obviously, if you know the original Pride and Prejudice, you will find a lot of things here that you will find interesting. But I will also say that it stands well on its own. Like, it's a story of its own, and you don't really need to have read the original Pride and Prejudice to enjoy this story. And so that's my recommendation. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this book, what your opinions about it are. It would be lovely to generate a bit of a discussion here. And yeah, that is my recommendation. Okay, you guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video for this month. If you have, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And if you enjoy my videos in general, please consider supporting my work. I've recently created a Patreon page for my channel, and you can support my work from £2 a month and be eligible to receive many exciting and exclusive perks like monthly book reviews and also personalized book reviews. So thank you very much for your support, and I will see you in my next video.